Today we're breaking down the classic Rolling Stones song, Ruby Tuesday, which is so much better than the original title of the song, Applebee's. So if you haven't noticed, we're playing this with an acoustic guitar and not a piano like the original. So this is kind of an example of how you can get an acoustic guitar to maybe sound a little bit more like a piano, because piano is kind of the ultimate instrument when adding a melody to a chord progression. Now the chord progression is really, really simple. It's just A minor to G to F to G to C for the first time around. Okay? So now there's a way that we can play this to kind of get it to sound a little bit more like the piano, and that's by breaking the chord into kind of pieces of the guitar, right? So if we start with that A minor, what we're going to do is, I'm just playing kind of with my fingers or whatever, but I'm simulating like a pick type deal, because I don't really know, there wasn't a pick around when I went to reach for one. If I don't actually have a pick somewhere within sitting distance, it's just not going to happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this A minor chord, which really, if you want to play an A minor, you can strum all 6 strings. Generally the bottom 5 strings are the way to do it. But we're going to break this up into a high and a low piece of a chord. So maybe the first beat that I'm getting on this A minor, I'm aiming for the highest 3 strings. And then the second beat, I'm aiming for the A, D, and G strings. So instead of just having an A chord, we're getting a type sound, right? Because on a piano, you have, most people have 2 hands that they can go back and forth, right? Like right, left, high, low, high, low. So we're kind of simulating a little bit of that on a guitar. So if you see, I'm kind of going high, low, high, low. And then every time I do that, we can switch chords and do the same kind of rhythm, right? So if we go from an A minor to a G, and by the way, look at this G chord, right? If you haven't used this efficient G chord, then you need to learn it, because we're all about efficiency here, just like the good staff at Ruby Tuesdays. When you go from an A minor to a G, instead of going like this, like most people play a G chord, how I first started playing a G chord, maybe you could actually lead with your ring finger on the 3rd fret, just because it's a more efficient way to play it in some ways. And specifically because the next chord we're going to is an F, back to G, and end on C. So this ring finger being on the 3rd fret is kind of like, an open chord staple, right? Just like the chicken slam dunkers are a staple on a fantastic Ruby Tuesdays menu. So anyways, we can do the same thing, A minor to G. And now the thing about a G chord is it's, a great 6-string open chord. So now I can actually kind of loosen up my aiming that I'm doing with my picking hand to get maybe the bottom 3 strings and the lower 3 strings to kind of increasingly simulate that piano riff that we have going on. So A minor, G, F, back to G to C. Okay, now you'll notice for an F, I'm not even playing a bar chord, because again, just like the atmosphere at Ruby Tuesdays, leisure and fun is what we're going for here, and that doesn't equate with bar chords. So from this G chord, we go to this F chord, where I'm really just kind of jamming on the middle 4 strings of an F major chord. Same kind of thing. If you get that high E string in there, then hey, that's more power to you, That's like a cherry on top of a delicious Ruby Tuesdays dessert. And then after, from that F, we go back to G, and then the money shot. Okay, so this is a really cool thing that I would recommend any guitar player kind of experiment with, and that's adding a melody on top of a chord. We're just ending with this C chord after this A minor, G, F, G, C progression. This is that little melody thing that goes on the piano. Which is just E, E, D, D, C, C. Open E, 3rd fret, B string, 1st fret, B string. Now we can play over a C chord. Okay, so it's really kind of a cool, again, representation of what the piano in this classic song is doing. A minor, G, F, G, C. Second time, A, G, F. Let's switch the last two chords around. So instead of going from that G to the C, we're going from a C to a G, which is actually something that you'll see a lot in the Rolling Stones songs, how they kind of choose chord progressions. It's really kind of interesting, and how the whole band just flows together on a delicious Ruby Tuesday's journey, as many rock historians have compared it to. How, you know, it's the band is just moving together in chords, and a lot of times it'll be the same chord progression, but maybe one thing will be different. So the second time through, instead of A, G, F, G, C melody, it's A, G, F, C, G, which is a great way to kind of lead a vocal melody into another part. For example, the next part we're going A minor, D, G, A minor, D, G, then back to C, then end on G. So again, then there's a chorus too, which really just look up the chords. It's a great song to learn the whole thing. This isn't so much a lesson on the song. This is just, you know, having a good time in a family-friendly atmosphere. That's kind of the spirit of this channel. And really just kind of an excuse to use a classic song to talk about maybe breaking chords up and playing them in a different way, and then adding a melody on top of the chords. Because really, no matter what chord voicing you're using, that melody is always going to be usually within a finger's reach. And if it's not, if it's higher up, then you can choose a different chord voicing to get there. Something to think about. One of the great bands of all time. Great song. So definitely hope you learned a little bit about Ruby Tuesdays, about the history of the Rolling Stones, and had a good old time. Remember to tip your server by buying some merch on the merch store, and I will talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.